ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka, text number 4. Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha Sarva Kama Dugha Mahi Sarva Kama Dugha Mahi Sishichusma Prajan Gavaha Sishichuhusma Vrajan Gavaha Payasa Udasvatihi Muda Payasodhasvatir Muda Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha Sarva Kama Dhugamahi Sishichu Usma Vrajan Gavaha Payasodha Swatir Muda Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha Sarva Kama Dhugamahi Sishichu Usma Vrajan Gavaha Payasodha Swatir Muda Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha Sarva Kama Dhugamahi Sishichusma Vrajan Gavaha Payasodha Swatir Muda Kamam Vavarsha Parjanya Sarva Kama Dhugamahi Sishichusma Vrajan Gavaha Payasodha Swatir Muda Kamam Vavarsha Parjanya Sarva Kama Dhugamahi Sishichusma Mamaha Payasodha Swatir Muda Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha Sarva Kama Dhugamahi Sishichusma Vrajan Gavaha Payasodha Swatir Muda Kamam Vavarsha Parjanya Sarva Kama Dhugamahi Sishichusma Vrajan Gavaha Muda Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha Sarva Kama Dhugamahi Sishichusma Vrajan Gavaha Payasodha Swatir Mudaha. What meaning? Kamam, everything needed. Vavarsha, was showered. Parjanyaha, Rains. Sarva, everything. Kama, necessities. Dugha, producer. Mahi, the land. Sishichuhu, Sma, moisten. Rajan, pasturing grounds. Gavaha, the cow. Payasa udaswatihi, due to swollen milk bags. Muda, because of a joyful attitude. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. Translation with repetition. During the reign of Maharaja Yudhishthira, the cloud showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The basic principle of economic development is centered about land and cows. The necessities of human society are food grains, fruits, milk, minerals, clothing, wood, etc. One requires all these items to fulfill the material needs of the body. Certainly, one does not require flesh and fish or iron tools and machinery. During the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira, all over the world there were regulated rainfalls. Rainfalls are not in the control of the human being. The heavenly king Indradeva is the controller of rains and is a servant of the Lord. When the Lord is obeyed by the king and the people under the king's administration, there are regulated rains from the horizon. And these rains are the causes of all varieties of production on the land. Regulated rains not only help ample production of grains and fruits, but when they combine with astronomical influences, there is ample production of valuable stones and pearls. Grains and vegetables can sumptuously feed a man and animals, and a fatty cow delivers enough milk to supply a man sumptuously with vigor and vitality. If there is enough milk, enough grains, enough fruit, enough cotton, enough silk, and enough jewels, then why do the people need cinemas, houses of prostitution, slaughterhouses, etc.? What is the need of an artificial, luxurious life of cinema, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels? Has this civilization produced anything but quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men into a hellish factory and the war fields at the whims of a particular man? It is said here that the cows used to moisten the pasturing land with milk because their milk bags were fatty and the animals were joyful. Do they not require, therefore, proper protection for a joyful life by being fed with sufficient quantity of grass in the field? Why should men kill cows for their selfish purposes? Why should man not be satisfied with grains, fruits, and milk, which combined together can produce hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes? Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Maharaj Yudhishthira, while touring his vast kingdom, saw a black man attempting to kill a cow. The king at once arrested the butcher and chastised him sufficiently. Should not a king or an executive head protect the lives of the poor animals who are unable to defend themselves? Is this humanity? Are not the animals of a country citizens also? Then why are they allowed to be butchered in organized slaughterhouses? Are these signs of equality and fraternity or nonviolence? Therefore, in contrast with the modern, advanced, civilized form of government, an autocracy like Maharaj Yudhishthira's is by far superior to so-called democracy in which animals are killed and a man less than an animal is allowed to cast votes for another less than animal man. We are all creatures of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord Himself is a seed-giving Father, and material nature is the mother of all living beings in all shapes. Thus, Mother Material Nature has enough foodstuff both for animals and men, by the grace of the Father Almighty Sri Krishna. The human being is the elder brother of all other living beings. He is endowed with intelligence more powerful than animals for realizing the course of nature and the indications of the Almighty Father. Human civilization should depend on the production of material nature without artificially attempting economic development to turn the world into a chaos of artificial greed and power only for the purpose of artificial luxuries and sense gratification. This is but the life of dogs and hogs. Thus ends the Transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, we saw that after the passing away of Bhishma Deva, now Maharaj Yudhishthira has been made as the king, and now the description is about how was the kingdom during the time of Maharaj Yudhishthira. So, it is being said that it is first very important to note why is that only the description of specific kings is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Or what is so unique that we have to study about Maharaj Yudhishthira that we don't study about some other kings? Because these kings, they follow dharma. So what distinguishes the devotees or the personalities who are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam from the other books where we study in history? We study different kings. We study, in this period of time, so-called rulers were ruling India and so on and so forth. But there is a distinction between the history that those textbooks talk and the history that Srimad Bhagavatam speaks. And here, the example is given during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira. So Maharaj Yudhishthira is Dharma Raja. He followed the principles given by the Lord completely. So dharma is not blind faith. It is actually the laws or the instructions given by the Lord Himself, and to follow that. So the most important point to note is that if one follows the instructions given by the Lord, then there is peace and prosperity. And it is said, Prabhupada quotes a Bengali statement where he says that if the king is impious, then the kingdom can never be happy, the people in the kingdom will never be happy. And similarly, if the wife is not chaste or is not pious, in the household, then the household cannot be peaceful and happy. So the role of a king is emphasized. King is a leader. Similarly, the head of the family, father and mother, they are also leaders. So if the leaders of the society, if they do not follow the dharma or the rules given by the Lord, then the people cannot be happy. So here we should also note in this verse that Srimad Bhagavatam is not only just talking about religious principles in some seclusion. It is talking about religious principle in action. In real world, how do we organize society? What is the role of land? What is the role of cows? What do we need? How they can be achieved? How they can be fulfilled? The necessities of life. So the formula for having a peaceful, happy life for all the people of the kingdom, how can the king organize that? Those things are also described. And therefore, sometimes people mistake religious life means you go to a seclusion, you practice some tapasya, you practice some yajna, or you do some chanting. That is not what is actually spiritual life is. Spiritual life encompasses everything. And therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam touches upon politics, political philosophy, sociology, anthropology, medicine. All different kinds of instructions that are required are given in this Vedic text. So this is very important, that it is not just a text which is meant for one to become in seclusion. Actually, spiritual life, as even Arjuna thought, it is means an inactive life. Actually, spiritual life is not inactive life. It is actually active life. In fact, when Srila Prabhupada was asked, like by a reporter, do you all work? Or in some sense, you don't work. But Prabhupada says, no, we work more than you. Do you travel like me? Do you write books like me? So, actually, when one becomes spiritually active, one does not become inactive. Rather, one becomes very active, even in terms of the material activities. The amount of literature that Srila Prabhupada produced, the amount of travel that he did, it is not possible. So spiritual life is not inactive life, it is actually real active life. So in this verse, we can see that kamam vavarsha parjanyaha. So the first thing that was happening in the kingdom of Maharaj Yudhishthira was that the cloud showered all the water that people needed. Vavarsha was showered, parjanyaha, the rains. So kamam, so everything needed. So in a rule of a saintly king or a pious king, all the material necessities are fulfilled. But for the material necessities to be fulfilled, what is the basic principle that is being said? The rains. If there are no rains, there is no question of land producing anything. Therefore, rains are very, very important. And as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, we cannot control the rains. In fact, Prabhupada in different places used to question, you may know H2 plus O makes water, you may know all these formulas, but can you really produce water in sufficient quantity and remove drought? Prabhupada says no. So we should not blindly follow the scientific, the so-called scientists and scientific philosophy that everything can be materially modified and everything can be fulfilled. All the necessities can be fulfilled. No. Prabhupada says, no, we have to follow the Vedic way of how to get rains. So it is very important that without sufficient rain, there cannot be prosperity. So during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was Vavarsha, Kamam Vavarsha Parjanyaha. There was sufficient rain, which is necessary for all the people in general. Then Sarva Kama Dukamahi. So here, Sarva Kama, the word Kama is again being used, and Prabhupada writes necessities. So there is a distinction between the want and what is necessary. I may want so many things. I may want 2 cars, 3 cars, big buildings, 10 rooms, 5 rooms. Like one of the devotee who was visiting, he was mentioning that they went to a house which looked like a palace. Big, big houses. But is it really necessary? No, 1 room is also sufficient. So whatever is necessity, that is produced, dugha means producer. The land, mahi means land. The land produces whatever is necessary. And Prabhupada explains what are those things which are necessary for us. So unless the land does not produce, there is not enough rains, actually we cannot be peaceful and happy. Our basic necessities are not fulfilled. Sichushu sma rajan gavaha. And the cows, gavaha, they would moisten the pasturing grounds. Why would they moisten the pasturing grounds? Because of their fatty milk bags. They're filled with so much of milk. And muda, very joyful, very happy. So when cows are very happy and taken care well, there is profuse abundance of milk is available. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says that in the Vedic civilization, there is so much of milk. Prabhupada gives the example of Krishna is feeding butter to the even monkeys. That much milk. So unfortunately, in today's civilization, the milk production is artificially pumped up in different ways, and people do not recognize the importance of milk. So we can see in this purport also, Prabhupada is distinguishing the difference between Vedic civilization and the modern civilization. So Vedic civilization, the way it functions, is very important for us to understand, and especially even for the leaders of the society, it is very important for them to understand what is the purpose of Vedic civilization. How does it function? What are its goals? How does it achieve its goals compared to the modern civilization? So when Srila Prabhupada talks about Vedic civilization, he says the first thing in Vedic civilization is that there has to be division, the division of Varna and Ashrama. Varna means social order, Ashrama means spiritual order. So Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. These are the 4 social orders. So the human society has to be divided into these 4 social orders. And similarly, there are 4 spiritual orders: Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi. Now why one should divide the society into 4? Because each of them have an assigned duty, assigned dharma, based upon their influence of the modes of material nature on them. They can function in a specific way, and every one of them have a specific duty to perform. When there is specific duty, dharma, that is practiced in a regulated way. So another meaning of Vedic civilization means there are rules and regulations. Nothing is free. Not everyone and anyone can do anything. This is very important. Unfortunately, in modern day, freedom, anything unrestricted is encouraged. Actually, that does not lead to prosperity. That actually leads to degradation. So, there are regulative principles of freedom. Unless the regulation is not followed, there is no real freedom. So, in the Varnashrama system, every human being is trained in performing duty under rules and regulations. So, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So when one functions even materially in regulation, the artha, the economic development will easily happen. Then the word kamam that is being used, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Kama, the sense of gratification or to please the senses. Because there is enough economic development in a regulated way, there is also regulated sense gratification that is possible. And in due course of time, one will realize that this is not the real goal of life. I want liberation. So, the Vedic system means there is a systematic progression, and therefore it is also known as Aryan civilization. Aryan civilization means the progressive values of human life are considered. And what is progressive values for human life? Spiritual advancement. To free oneself from the encagement of this material body. So everything, underlying principle that is guiding the Vedic civilization is for one to come out of this material body or come out of the material bodily concept of life. And then do what? Then to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Hate Swartha Gatim Hi Vishnu. People in general do not know that all my activities are eventually meant to please the Lord. So the underlying background behind all the activities, that is to please the Lord. So that is the prime factor which is governing Vedic civilization. And similarly, in our services also, as we move hands, legs, and we move things around, we should know that what are we aiming at? What is the goal? Is it to just, lift one thing from another thing? In the course of lifting all these things, we are actually aiming to please the Lord. We're actually trying to please the spiritual master. If that background understanding is not present, then it is more of a material movement than a spiritual movement. So, to spiritually move things, that means we should have the background consciousness. We should have the right consciousness. For whom are we doing this? Who am I? And what is the position of the Lord? As Prabhupada says, the position of the Lord is that Aham Sarvasya Prabho Janmadiyasya. It is from whom everything is coming. He is the proprietor of everything. And I am His eternal servant. So that consciousness is very important. Because when we do various things, we can forget that I am actually a servant. I am meant to please the Lord. So as soon as the idea of pleasing the Lord comes, then so many things open up about how we do a service. The idea of unnecessary fight, unnecessary control, unnecessary lauding tendencies will go away. Otherwise, in the material world, it is about me and mine. So, in our services also, it is very important that we analyze what is the motivation, what is the purpose that is driving me. Anya vilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam. So, what anya vilashita shunyam? Do I have a material desire when I am doing the services? What is the desire when I am doing service? Is my intent is to do something that I like? Or is it what Krishna likes? Is it what Srila Prabhupada likes? This is very important. Then we get into the devotional mood, the devotional attitude. It is in this devotional service attitude that the Lord and the spiritual master are pleased. We may think something else will please them. No. It is devotional service attitude, loving devotional service. That is very important. And when we think to do service, then the idea of doing it under the bona fide direction of the spiritual master comes. Because bona fide direction is required for one to do service. Without bona fide direction, just moving some things is not service. Because that may not please the spiritual master. And if the spiritual master is not pleased, the Lord is not pleased. So it is very important, as we do service also, we have to keep in mind, how are we doing that? Am I doing it the way the Lord is pleased, the spiritual master is pleased? Or am I applying my own jnana and karma? Is there fruitive intent behind my service? Is there something that I want to gain out of this? Is there something that I'm speculating about the service and why it is to be done, how it is to be done? So in practical life, one has to evaluate while doing services, how am I doing the service? What is the goal of this entire thing? Because sometimes we move things but we may forget the purpose behind moving the things. If the purpose is very clear and fixed, then the devotional, we can be part of the devotional internal energy under the influence of the internal energy of the Lord. It is in that we do not feel tired, the material things do not bother us. But if we are not under the internal potency of the Lord, material calculations, material speculations bother us so much. What is possible, what is not possible, and so on and so forth. And to some or the other materially move things becomes a primary force for us. But when we are under the spiritual potency of the Lord, then things manifest so wonderfully. What is possible, what is not possible, we will not be able to comprehend. By Lord's potency, the internal energy of the Lord, everything becomes so wonderful. And if the Lord is satisfied, if the Lord is pleased, everyone is pleased. But other way around, we cannot do it. So, Vedic civilization, and more specifically the Krishna conscious way of functioning life, is very, very elevated. It is driven by a purpose. Everything is brought together with a thread. That means there is an underlying principle, underlying purpose behind everything that is being said and being done. So to understand that is very important. And to compare that with modern civilization, there is no underlying principle. There is no fundamental underlying principle. The only underlying principle is sense gratification. Is to maximize the bodily comforts of life. The body, which is so temporary, it cannot be satisfied fully. To any amount of the want that the living entity wants, it cannot be sufficiently satisfied, because the desire of the living entity is not satisfied, is not properly guided. Then there is no question of any amount of necessities, any amount of wants. They may think, oh, if I go from here to there, my life will be good. Or if I have that something which I don't have right now, maybe my life will be good. And for that reason, to have something that they don't have, for the tendency of the greed and so on and so forth, people try to invent different kinds of artificial necessities so that they can make profit, they can make some gain. So there is an artificial necessities, artificial way of generating things, artificial way of producing things. This is all complicates one's life. The material complexities of life increase. And therefore Prabhupada said this: simple living, high thinking. And Prabhupada was very happy when Prabhupada saw in Mayapur that the young boys would take care of the cows and calves. Then Prabhupada would be very, very happy. Oh, see, this is the way how the Vedic civilization should be. The young boy should be trained in taking care of cows. So, as Prabhupada says in the very beginning of this purport, the basic principle of economic development is centered about land and cows. So Prabhupada says that, the land can produce enough food grains, fruits. And not only that, eventually Prabhupada says it produces different kinds of jewels, minerals. So, if land is not taken care, Krishi, Go Raksha, Vanijyam. So, even Bhagavad Gita says that to take care of land, to produce enough food grains is very important. Unfortunately, today, no one is trained in how to produce food grains. Everyone is made to learn how to run a laptop and so on and so forth, but no one is trained how to produce food grains from the land, which is the most basic necessity for us. We may have everything else, but if we do not have food, how will we survive? And similarly, cows. When cows are taken care very well, there is abundant milk. The Vedic civilization emphasizes that the milk is a very important food. It nourishes the body, and importantly, it creates finer tissues in the brain, which is necessary to understand the spiritual subject matter. Otherwise, the dull mind cannot appreciate the spiritual subject matter. So, there is a great importance that is given to cow's milk. And cow as an animal, The Vedic civilization never encourages killing of cows. Most sinful activity, in Prabhupada often criticized the Western societies especially. Now today it's prevalent everywhere. But during those times, Prabhupada would say, Prabhupada would go to Gita Nagari or some other farm, and he would see animals which are just brought from somewhere else, and Prabhupada would say, oh, this animal is crying. And in fact, real tears could be seen in the eyes because of fear. The cows being in the slaughterhouse, seeing that they are going to be killed. And Prabhupada gives the example, just like if you're in a concentration camp, and you know that you'll be killed very soon, do you think you'll be very happy, very peaceful? If you know that someone is going to kill you very soon, how will you be happy? So similarly, if an animal is kept in a small space and is about to be killed, how can the animal be happy? And when the animal is not happy, especially a cow, how will it produce enough milk? So the modern materialistic civilization, it does not know that there are certain laws of nature that are functioning. That if the cows are kept happy, they produce more milk. Not only that, as Prabhupada gives the example of Maharaj Parikshit punishing Kali, who was torturing a cow, in that purpose Prabhupada writes, if cows are taken care of well, there will be peace and prosperity. If the cows are happy, that place becomes very prosperous. Very, very prosperous. And Prabhupada says that people should learn from this principle. So there are spiritual principles the Vedic scriptures are talking about. If they are taken care, there will be no scarcity. Artificially one may try to gain something, but that is not sustainable. But if in the Vedic way, if one attempts, then everything that is required will be provided. And as we see here, Prabhupada is saying that there is a line where Prabhupada says that if the king and the people in the kingdom, if they obey the instructions of the Lord, then everything that is necessary will be provided. So this is very, very important principle, that we only see the material nature, but behind the material nature is the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is pleased that the material nature will produce sufficiently. So now we are also seeing the example of Maharaj Prithu, where he was trying to chase and kill Mother Earth, because it is not producing sufficient grains, sufficient necessities for the people in general. Then the Mother Earth says, I am not producing because there are too many demons. If there are devotees, I would produce enough. So the material nature restricts if the sinful activities are predominant in the society, in the kingdom. And therefore, it is important that the leader of the society must check that the sinful activities are not progressing. Rather, people are following the instructions of the Lord. So as soon as the instructions of the Lord are followed, as soon as people become Krishna conscious, the struggle for existence will vanish. This is very important. So, to the degree we become Krishna conscious, our struggle for this worldly basic necessities, they will not bother us. Otherwise, our basic necessities, what will happen to me, where will I get my next meal, what will happen, will I get food or will I not get food? See how much of anxiety for a person. The animals are getting food, they don't have a proper storage and so on and so forth. They are getting food, but how we human beings, we have so many facilities, but we are so anxious about food. So higher intelligence, so many things we can do, yet we are so anxious for one meal of food. The rich is also anxious, the poor is also anxious. See the state. But on the other hand, if you become Krishna conscious, we know Krishna provides. In fact, during Prabhupada's time, devotees used to use these words, Krishna provides. Once, when Srila Prabhupada actually used to travel to different temples so as to encourage the devotees and inspire them to take up more services and guide them. Usually the temple presidents were told to write to Prabhupada. So they would write to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, we are doing this, we will have you this engagement, please come to our temple, we would like you to meet so-and-so called big people, the government officials, you come and speak to them, it will be very nice. So in this way, each temple president would write a letter to Prabhupada inviting Prabhupada to come there. So similarly, the Australian Yatra or the Australian devotees, they also heard this thing, the temple president heard that, if you do something like this, if you tell Prabhupada that we will give good engagement, there are a lot of devotees who are becoming devotees in the temple here, please come. So this temple devotee thought, it's a small temple, who is going to come? Prabhupada has so many places to go, and this is like very new. What will happen? Not much. So he writes a letter to Prabhupada saying, Prabhupada, you should come very quickly. There are a lot of nice things happening here. We will have so many engagements for you here when you come. He writes a letter and he thinks, what will happen? Nothing will happen. And they just go on doing their book distribution and day-to-day activities. Then suddenly, within a week or two, they get a reply that Prabhupada wants to come to Australia and give tickets for 3 people. Prabhupada will travel from Bombay and send the money for tickets. He said, what? We don't have money to sustain our day-to-day functioning in the temple, and they're asking 3 tickets, and Prabhupada wants to bring deities from in the Cross Maidan, Mumbai. They were doing Pandal program, and Prabhupada wants to bring those deities and install them in the temple. So now, so much more funds are required. So they were like, the president calls for the immediate meeting. He says, all of you come here. There is a news that Prabhupada is coming. Now we have to, first of all, we need to buy tickets for Prabhupada and 2 other devotees who are going to accompany him. And the deities are going to come, and so many things have to be done. Now they are thinking, I think $3,000 or something like that they were planning to have for entire transportation and few other things necessary for that. And they do not have even day-to-day management. So they were thinking, and the president asked everyone what to do. And then one of the person, I think he was just visiting the temple for a few weeks or something, he decides to sell his house and give the money that is necessary for Prabhupada's travel. So that's how it is said, Krishna provides. So in this way, there are various instances if you look at if you look at the glorification of Prabhupada in Prabhupada's memories by his disciples, quite often you will hear how Krishna provides. Because this faith was so strong in them, they would venture into doing anything that pleases Prabhupada. If that pleases Prabhupada, they know that whatever is necessary for that, Krishna will provide. And therefore they wouldn't hesitate. And if Srila Prabhupada wouldn't have this conviction that Krishna provides, how can one start from one temple to another temple to another temple to another temple? And then this Australian temple, where Prabhupada opened a new temple there with installing the deities, only people were like 2 days, 3 days. The one who joined the temple that day, they were given first and second initiation, and they were told to become Ramanas and perform the pujari services. So actually, Krishna provides. If we are Krishna conscious, if we follow the principles given by a pure devotee of the Lord, because we cannot see the super soul, we cannot understand the instructions of the super soul. The spiritual master is the external manifestation of the Lord. So if we follow the instructions of the spiritual master, there will be never scarcity. Krishna will provide. But if we do not follow sincerely the instructions of the spiritual master and the Lord, we may try artificially to gain things, but it will not work that way. And therefore, if we function Krishna conscious way, everything is within it, whatever that is necessary. And as we know, Krishna provides. Whatever you lack, He will provide. And whatever we have, He will preserve. This is Krishna conscious way of functioning. Then there is no artificial anxiety. If this understanding is not clear, then one has to artificially, materially squeeze, different things, different ways, different means to gain something. And that is very stressful. So if we function spiritually, it is peaceful. A lot of things can be done. It's a question of the right devotional service attitude, loving service attitude, to follow the instructions. If that is there, Krishna provides. And for a person who knows Krishna provides, where is the anxiety? Where is the anxiety for my anything? My food, clothing, shelter. Why should I be too anxious? Actually, an advanced devotee is not anxious about personal needs, because one is fully convinced the Lord provides. That's why a sannyasi is fearless. See, sannyasi means fearless. He is walking alone, he is not sure of his next meal, he is living in a jungle or traveling through a jungle. He is not worried, because he knows Krishna is taking care of me and Krishna provides. And another thing is that they are not attracted by the material things. Just like Narada Muni, after the death of his mother, he was walking. And when he was walking, he is seeing different fields, agricultural fields, mine fields, so many beautiful things he is seeing, but he is not attracted by them. So this is important. If we are spiritually situated, we are not attracted by material things, we are not anxious for material things, and in that state of mind, we can remain peaceful. Otherwise, it is all, as Prabhupada is saying, what has the society produced? So-called artificial necessities, cinemas, hotels, artificial gadgets. This cannot bring peace. So, it is very important that we should look the world through the lens of the scriptures, Shastra Chakshu, Jnana Chakshu. So we need to have the knowledge, then we are peaceful. If not, we'll be anxious, we'll try to materially work, and that is a cause of struggle. And here we can see wonderfully how Bhagavatam is offering so many wonderful instructions of how to bring together society, how to classify the society, what should be the priorities of the society, what the society should not do. All these descriptions are provided. So if one follows this, then all the necessities, even material necessities of human life, or all living entities in fact, can be taken care. And another one point is that the role of the king is not just to take care of the human beings. The role of the king is to take care of all the living entities in the kingdom, praja. That means any living entity born in that kingdom, the king has to take care, has to feel for the well-being of that living entity. That could be animal, plant, tree. Not that I take care of some people and I neglect other people. So there is no real spiritual vision. And because of which there is chaos in the society. And therefore this knowledge is so important. It has to be distributed, especially to the leaders of the society. Then there will be some sanity in this world. Otherwise, the influence of Kali Yuga leads the leaders to promote more and more sinful activities. They themselves are engrossed in sinful activities, and because of which the entire population is affected and suffering. So this is another wonderful verse where how if the king is very pious, very following the principles of religion as given by the Lord himself, Lord Shri Krishna, then all prosperity and peace will exist. If not, artificial life, artificial ways of living will increase, which will not satisfy or make one happy. I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or comments.